25. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I forgot. Yeah. Yes, 24. Yeah, 24. No, 25, Prabhuji.
Yeah, I'll start from 25.
Hmm.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam 7:14-25 onwards. We will read a couple of verses. Eshu snanam japo homo vratam deva dvichacharam pitradeva nribhutebhyo yaddattam tadya anaswaram. During these periods of seasonal change, if one bathes in the Ganges, in the Yamuna, or in another sacred place, if one chants, offers fire sacrifices, or executes vows, or if one worships the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the forefathers, the demigods, and the living entities in general, whatever he gives in charity yields a permanently beneficial result. Text 26. Samskara kalo jayaya apatyasyaatmanastata preta samstamritahascha karmani abhyudaya nripa. O King Yudhishthira, at the time prescribed for reformatory ritualistic ceremonies for oneself, one's wife, or one's children, or during funeral ceremonies and annual death ceremonies, one must perform the auspicious ceremonies mentioned above in order to flourish in fruitive activities. The Vedas recommend many ritualistic ceremonies to be performed with one's wife on the birthdays of one's children or during funeral ceremonies. There are also personal reformatory methods like initiation. These must be performed according to time and circumstances and the directions of Shastra. Bhagavad Gita strongly recommends Yatva Shastra Vidanoktam. Everything must be performed as indicated in the Shastras. For Kali Yuga, the Shastras enjoin that Sankirtana Yajna be performed always. Kirtaniya Sadahari. All the ritualistic ceremonies recommended in the Shastra must be preceded and followed by Sankirtana. This is the recommendation of Srila Jiva Goswami. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityanandam Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this chapter titled Ideal Family Life. Narada Muni is giving instruction for humanity at large. When a spiritual scripture is presented, the scripture is presented not meant for one single sex of the society. It is done for all the different rungs of the society. Like for example, Bhagavad Gita. When Krishna presented Bhagavad Gita, even though Arjuna was the student and Krishna could have given instructions specific to Arjuna, questions extremely particular and relevant to Arjuna and Arjuna only, probably the agenda could have got over. But then, great personalities, they try to use the opportunity to take advantage of the situation and try to learn for themselves. And great personalities try to use the situation and teach for the society at large for the times to come. We can give several examples. For Parikshit Maharaj's problem, when Parikshit Maharaj was cursed, it could have been very simple and Parikshit Maharaj could have been given a special blessings because he was a king and his liberation could have been very easily organized. But Parikshit Maharaj, as well as the assembled sages, thought that this is a wonderful opportunity for the society to be delivered. Using Parikshit Maharaj's example, using Parikshit Maharaj's situation, they thought that why not we try to help the society at large. When Dundukari, who was in the ghost body suffering, went to Gokarna and asking for help, it would have been very easy for Gokarna to somehow easily deliver him because Gokarna was a wonderful Vaishnava Brahmana. It would have been much easier for him to deliver. But then he used the opportunity not only for Dundukari, he also used the opportunity to speak Srimad Bhagavatam for the society at large, so that whoever in whatever state of mind they hear Srimad Bhagavatam, they get delivered and they get benefited. Bhakti Vinod Thakur. During Bhakti Vinod Thakur's time, people used to worship ghosts. People used to worship, several donkey babas, fake babas. Bhakti Vinod Thakur could have very easily solved the situations locally. But Bhakti Vinod Thakur really thought that it is important duty to use the situation to convert, to present a larger message for the society at large. We can go on and on and on and give so many examples. So the point that I'm trying to drive here is Srimad Bhagavatam, whilst the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam and the target audience of Srimad Bhagavatam are Bhagavatas. The purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam is to understand Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. The purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam is to elevate our consciousness from animalistic consciousness to a divine consciousness. When Srimad Bhagavatam is focused for that, why is it that Srimad Bhagavatam is trying to talk about how to flourish in fruitive activities, how to do, materialistic action, how to do obligation, whilst Srimad Bhagavatam itself is speaking about how somebody is surrendering to Mukunda, Gato Mukundam Parihritya Kartyam. Just by surrendering to Mukunda, one need not, offer any oblations, one does not have any obligation towards anyone else. The same Srimad Bhagavatam is now explaining about these things. So we have some interesting sets of lessons that we should learn from this current context. So the very first lesson that we would like to drive home here is the Srimad Bhagavatam's recommendation of trying to perform reformatory, ritualistic ceremonies. It is something to do with one's life being clean. Because for us to do any spiritual activities, for us to perform any spiritual services, the beginning point is remaining clean. If you know deity worship standard, before even deity worship starts, we are supposed to be clean. Supposed to be clean internally, supposed to be clean externally. Anything that we have to do with respect to religious, spiritual activities, cleanliness happens to be the base. So by Narada Muni recommending these kinds of ritualistic activities and processes, he is just trying to set the precedence and explain that it is the duty of every grihastha who has got so many distractions. It is a duty of every grihastha to make sure that even if he has to be doing fruitive activities, he does it responsibly. He does it in a manner that is non-binding. He does it in a manner that is recommended and clean practices. If there are no clean practices, then there are definitely going to be several issues which will create for the society at large. So from that standpoint, it is important to understand these sets of verses that Narada Muni is speaking. They are very much important, but in terms of relevance to our Krishna consciousness, the relevance is that it is all of us are directed to be remaining clean, and all of us are directed to be making sure that our activities are accountable and responsible. Not that we are just simply interested in sense gratification, and just for the sake of sense gratification, we can do anything and everything. Or even for that matter, just because we are practicing Krishna consciousness, I'm a sadhaka, I can take things for granted and try to overlook some of my obligations. So this is my first reflection. The reason being, typically the human mindset, the tendency is such that a person tries to take advantage of Krishna consciousness for evading his obligations. A person trying to take obligations as a reason for avoiding Krishna consciousness. So this is a typical tendency of a sadhaka. He tries to find reasons, excuses of why he can delay being serious in Krishna consciousness. Our being delayed in Krishna consciousness is purely subjected to how much our surrender is there for Krishna consciousness. So Narada Muni, when he is trying to educate how a Brahmana should behave, the entire chapter is associated with Brahmana and Grihastha. It means Grihastha Brahmana has got a significant responsibility in the way he or she conducts. So our duty in a married life, because we are dealing with money, because we are dealing with society, because we are dealing with opposite sex, because we are dealing with power, because we are dealing with followers, because we are dealing with position, all these things that are listed are not necessary for a brahmachari or a sannyasi or even for a matter vanaprastha. But a grihastha has got a license to deal with all these things. Hence, Bhagavatam is and Bhagavatas are trying to take advantage of the context in Srimad Bhagavatam to even address those men who come to Srimad Bhagavatam for worldly results, those men who come to Krishna for temporary results. At least Bhagavatam want to take advantage of the platform to educate them in the practices, clean, righteous practices. Clean, righteous practices are very, very important. The second reflection in this current context is that as people, as the Gnostic, the atheistic, and people who have worldly agendas, they may portray that we are all just some set of sentimentalists. So these are all just emotional, sentimental things. This is to address them, saying that we mean what we do, in the sense that it is important for every practicing grihastha, every practicing brahmana, that his life, his relationships, and his activities are somewhere or other connected towards, somewhere or other, they are connected towards directing one towards dharmic lifestyle. Because people, especially the modern day people, their understanding is very much associated with logical reasoning. If things are not logically clear, if things are not logically convincing, if things are not logically, what I call logically practicable, we simply say that this is superstitious belief. We simply say that it is something that is not relevant for us. One of the evil effects of Kali is such that Kali will start making us question. Kali will start making us doubt. Kali will start making us do vitanda vada, dry argument over some things, because Kali want to disrupt religious practices. Kali wants to break dharma. Kali wants to somehow or other cripple people of dharmic practices. So hence, Narada Muni was very much concerned that without dharmic foundation, without righteousness as the foundation, without the basis of righteousness, one cannot, should not, and one will not be able to very nicely progress in his devotional sentiments. It is like, if I am not dharmic, how can I be devotional? So, in the sense, I may not have been practicing dharma, I may subscribe to devotional life, but eventually, once I subscribe to devotional life, I will have to somehow come to a clarity that dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. I need to be righteous. It is like when Jagai and Madai, they were brahmanas, they were breaking regulatory principles, but when they got devotional service, when they got the blessings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, they took up devotional life, but when they took up devotional life, they also took up their life of righteousness, that they took up the responsibility of a Brahmana and a servant of the society. So the point that I want to drive home as a second reflection is that in our Krishna consciousness journey, it is imperative that as a practitioner, we should be making sure I protect dharma. I am righteous. I am careful enough in making sure that dharma is very well upheld. Dharmena hina pashubir samanaha. That is what Mahabharata says. That if somebody is not going to support dharma, that is why for Bhagavata dharma to flourish, one of the suggestive or good to have platform is Varnashrama dharma. Of course, acharyas, great personalities have established Bhagavata dharma even to a mlecha background. But then, after giving Bhagavata dharma, Srila Prabhupada has made a statement that somehow or other, these Bhagavatas should work together in trying to revive Daiva Varnashrama. If Prabhupada would have thought Varnashrama is useless or not required, he would have not made that request. When Daiva Varnashrama means it has to be establishing righteous practices amongst practicing devotees. We cannot overlook dharma and eventually jump to bhakti, even though technically it is true. I may directly go to bhakti. It is like I may directly, go and study some qualifying degree program, but I should know that I will eventually need to have the basics covered. So my second reflection hence is to say that in our devotional practices, it is imperative that our activities are done in such a manner that righteousness, dharma, is upheld. And dharma is upheld in a manner that even the people who are logically challenging, people those who are not able to comprehend, they are able to understand and eventually practice, because when dharma is protected, we are protected. Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. And especially this responsibility of protecting dharma is with the grahastha. Of course, everybody has got their own dharma, but the reason this topic is about grahastha is grahasthas are the most complicated equation in the social order, because a brahmachari has to deal with himself, a sannyasi has to deal with himself, a vanaprastha has to deal with himself, maybe his spouse, but a grahastha has to deal with himself, his wife, his children, his relatives, his society, his boss, so many things, plus money and all those things that he may have to deal with. So from that standpoint, it is important for us to realize that in our Krishna conscious journey, that we might need to give importance to following proper righteous practices. We don't need to be religious, but we need to be having righteous dharmic practices so that our devotional sentiments are properly understood. Otherwise, our devotional activities may also be challenged by this evil effect of Kali. This is the second reflection. And third reflection is, by default, in our life, we tend to aim for short-term, immediate results and activities associated with them. For example, I am in financial difficulty. I want to immediately solve the financial difficulty, and for that, whatever prayers, whatever support, whatever havan, whatever thing that needs to be done, I would like to do that. I'm in some health issues. I'm in some sort of some difficulty. So our religious understanding is that I want to solve them now. Rest all the things we'll figure it out later. This is generally the human tendency. But then, in the process of somebody being so short-sighted, we try to miss understanding the larger picture of our existence. This is what Krishna is trying to explain to Arjuna, saying that Arjuna, you may talk like a Pandita, you may try to be, thinking about somebody's welfare, but you're actually speaking of dharma, and hence your concern for everybody is baseless. Asosyanan vachosatvam pragyavadamscha bhashase katasuna katasumscha nanucho shandi pandita. So, by saying this, Krishna is trying to warn Arjuna, saying that, my dear Arjuna, in your endeavor to help others, if you have to subscribe to violence to uphold dharma, please uphold one. So, the reason I'm mentioning this point is that short-sightedness is one problem that the society is facing. Prabhupada is explaining that in the purport, all the ritualistic ceremonies recommended in the Shastras must be preceded and followed by Sankirtana. Which means a person trying to perform any sorts of religious practices is not just to solve some temporary issues. It is not just to solve some sort of bodily and external issues. It may be apparently to address that, but eventually it has to be for establishing bhakti. Let's take example of Bhagavad Gita alone. The problem was Dharma Yuddha. The problem was Pandavas were not given their due rights. But then Krishna used that opportunity not only to solve the dharma issue or the dharma issue, but he also established devotion. So the third reflection hence I want to say is that many a times we see the so-called religious practices. Sometimes we see some devotees. Sometimes people come to Krishna. Arto Jignasu Artarthi Jnani. They all come to Krishna for a specific agenda, seeking some specific solution. And when their needs are fulfilled, their focus is shifted to something else. And Prabhupada condemns that. So these ritualistic ceremonies, they are supposed to be performed, they are supposed to be followed, so that eventually one can try to associate towards the larger agenda, which is Harinama Sankirtanam. I'll tell a very interesting episode that happened in Hyderabad in 1975. This was in Hyderabad ISKCON temple deity installation ceremony was being planned. Sri Radha Madan Mohanji temple. Srila Prabhupada was personally overseeing the project, and it was one of the dear projects of Srila Prabhupada. So I may be wrong in the year, but I think it is 1975. So Srila Prabhupada, those days we had very less Brahmanas within ISKCON who could perform the installation ceremonies. Now we have a lot of trained Brahmanas. But those days we had very less. So Srila Prabhupada had called for some Sri Vaishnava Pandits from Tirupati. So these Sri Vaishnava Pandits had performed 4 days ceremony, 3 or 4 days ceremony, very elaborate deity installation procedures and practices. And then finally, on the last day when the deities were installed and the main arati was going to start, and the main arati was sung by none other than our dearest Vishnu Jana Maharaj, who is considered as a very wonderful kirtan singer in those days, which means when he sings, it is like, it's very mesmerizing. So Vishnu Jana Maharaj started the kirtan, and he started slowly building up the tempo of the kirtan in such a manner that after a point in time, everybody present there were dancing to the kirtan. So much so that there were these Brahmanas from Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya who came to perform the fire sacrifices, which is unusual that they generally don't dance and kirtans and all. But when they saw this kirtan reverberating so wonderfully, they also started dancing to the kirtan. They couldn't control themselves and they also started dancing to the kirtan. And Srila Prabhupada, who was witnessing this entire ceremony, when he saw these Brahmanas dancing to the kirtan, Srila Prabhupada said, this is the essence. This is the essence of our Krishna consciousness. So the point is that the essence of this Krishna consciousness process is definitely to be understood, established, and properly followed. If the essence of Krishna consciousness is not properly understood, if the essence of Krishna consciousness is not properly applied, then just limiting ourselves with dharmic religious practices, it is very unfortunate. Even though dharma will definitely protect us, the purpose of dharma should eventually be to rise above the platform of bodily consciousness and be situated in the platform of soul. That is why it is explained by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that whilst dharma, artha, kama, moksha are 4 types of purusharthas, bhakti is called panchama purushartha, which means one needs to elevate, one needs to rise up and above the platform of bodily consciousness and eventually be situated in the soul platform. So these all, righteousness practices is meant to make sure that it is imperative that we all are rising above the bodily platform and being situated on the soul platform. So when Srila Prabhupada says that ultimately this should end in Sankirtana, ultimately it should end in, performing devotional services. In fact, that is the original agenda of why somebody is even encouraged for devotion. They may start initially to dovetail their resources, dovetail their money, dovetail their power, dovetail their position. But then the ultimate agenda is to realize that I am not this body, but spirit soul. The purpose of my existence, it is to glorify Krishna. And this material world is a place of temporary and place of suffering. So I need to exit. These are all basics understanding which eventually a person will come to realize if he is righteous. So hence my third reflection, the last reflection in this current context is that Srila Prabhupada insists that these practices, these religious practices, these samskaras, these purificatory ceremonies are not something as a formality done. They are done for the sake of eventually elevating our consciousness. Today I am not able to elevate my consciousness because I am completely grossly involved in my sensual activities by me performing reformatory activities. I'll give an example. These reformatory activities, when they are performed, the mantras that are chanted, the Brahmanas who is trying to help us do that, it is his duty to explain what are they doing, why are they doing. Coming from a South Indian Brahmin family, I'm sure most of you who are from such an upbringing, you would know how your grandparents, your parents, and your family tradition, when they did any rituals, any ceremony, any activities, there were an underlying reason. And when we chanted a mantra, when we performed a samskara, when we did certain activities, they were all scientifically aligned and they were eventually meant to rise above the bodily platform. So my third reflection is to say that the ultimate purpose of all these things is to come to Sankirtana, which means rise above the bodily platform, which means I utilize my current resources, I utilize my current body, I utilize my current situation and rise above and beyond worldly affairs and try to be situated in Krishna consciousness. Raghunath Das Goswami's life, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami's life, and so many acharyas' life. We get to see this in their life. Raghunath Das Goswami was very rich financially. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu helped him to rise above those situations. Gopalabhatta Goswami was from a very aristocratic and a very highly cultured Brahmin family. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu helped him rise above using that. So, like that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings were very clear. Sthane, Stita, Stutigatam, Tanuvan, Manopi. So, wherever you are, whichever state of situation that you are in, please ensure that you utilize that situation for glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the goal is eventually to realize I am not this body, but spirit soul. So this is the third reflection that I want to, register over here. And these are the three sets of reflections that we can learn from this current context. And Narada Muni, being a very intelligent teacher, is trying to use this platform. That even if a person with fruitive knowledge, with fruitive agenda comes and reads Srimad Bhagavatam, he has a take-home message. He can elevate his existence. He can rise above his current state of status quo and eventually be situated in a proper consciousness. That is one of the agendas of these sets of instructions. When we read these sets of instructions as a practicing devotee, as Prabhupada has helped us, he has given a perspective to see the bhakti component in the rituals, the devotional component in the rituals, not that we should make rituals out of bhakti. We should make bhakti out of rituals. It's a very important, part, because to make everything ritualistic, we are trying to, undermine the power of devotion. Rather, we should make use of the rituals to eventually establish devotional services. So those are the three sets of reflections that I want to register in this current context. And if there are any questions, comments, reflections, I'll be happy to respond, and we can go over any comments as well. Hare Krishna, Grandraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. It's a pretty short purport and a very crystal clear direction. So we have some time for question answers. Any comments, questions, reflections, thoughts?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. All goes to Prabhupada. As usual, it was such a nectarian class, reflecting upon the two sides of the dharmic life, or the practices to go back to Krishna. One is dharma, and another is bhakti. So bhakti cannot sustain. Yes, it's perfectly clear that Krishna also says that ये शास्त्रविधि मुश्री वर्तते कामगर न सिद्धिम अवनति न सुखम न पराम गति तस्मात् शास्त्रम प्रमाणन्ते. So Krishna also advises the religious practices, and then Narada Muni also emphasizes and further accentuated in his Narada Pancharatrika. So yes, so without the dharmic principles, the platform of Sataguna is not established. So it maybe that some Avadutas may, but at least internally they are still sattvic. So yes, we cannot imitate them. This Sahajiyas, they make a they, they distort the thing and they create utpat. That also you mentioned is very, very correct. That because of the utpat of the Sahajiyas, the Krishna consciousness had to, the real Krishna consciousness, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission had to wait for Bhaktivinoda Thakur to eradicate all these Sahajiyas. So it is very important to reflect upon those four principles that Prabhupada has, Mahaprabhu's mission has given. And so that we remain clean, all the four principles. And when you are speaking about the Iyengar Brahmanas and the South Indian Brahmins, so yeah, really their diligence and their rigor is unparalleled. I mean, I have been exposed to them because of my stay in South India for quite some time. Yes, they're wonderful. I mean, and that was also nice that really Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam, it's reflected when this rigorous Iyengar Brahmanas, they also started dancing to the kirtan. That was wonderful to reflect upon. Very good. This was so nice a class. Enjoyed every bit of it as usual. Reflections are also very, very pointed. Very well. Please grace us with your association more in the future.
Hare Krishna. All good, Prabhupada. Thank you so much for your kind words. Any other comments, questions, reflections? Okay, so we have Ram Navami coming up the next couple of days. So may you all become wonderful soldiers in the service of Lord Rama. We have a youth wing in our congregation. We call them as Vanara Sena because they're youth, and youth means our mind being wavering like a monkey, jumping from one thing to another. But when that wavering mind or when that tendency is dowtailed or somehow or other engaged in Lord Rama's service, then we become servants of Lord Rama. So Ram Navami Prabhupada says that Ram Navami, Narsinga Chaturthasi, Janmashtami, Gaura Purnima, there are all some festivals which needs to be celebrated. We have a beautiful Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman Ji in our temple here in Navi Mumbai. Beautiful deities, very, very beautiful. You can see them online. We have a fantastic Janmashtami like big celebrations. We are going to be having a huge festivity. First Ram Navami celebration we are going to have. So may you all have a fantastic Ram Navami Utsav in a couple of days. If no other questions, then maybe we can end the session.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, this is Geeta. Thank you for this wonderful class. Which temple are you talking about?
I'm talking about I'm based out of a place called Navi Mumbai. So we have an ISKCON temple which has got Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. But it's
Navi
not
Mumbai.
necessarily that in this temple only. There are so many temples in India around the world where Ram Navami celebrations are being done, including Ayodhya where Ram Janmastami.
Yeah, right.
But I'm saying that Ram Navami Utsav is an important festival for us to remember all the wonderful services Lord, Hanuman and all the Vanara Sena has done for Lord Ram, and try to learn from them to become wonderful soldiers for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sankirtan mission.
Right. Prabhuji, I wanted to ask you is what is the connection because Navratras always after the Ashtami Ramnami happens. So how is Navratra connected to Ramnami? Because that is Mata, right? So
well, Dashara is the day where the Lord Ram killed Ravana, in the sense that Lord Ram won over the evil. So on the day of Dashara Vijayadashami, it is celebrated as a day where evil is being completely finished and dharma and righteousness is established. There are maybe other reasons why Navaratri and Mata worships are interconnected, but Dasara, the day of Vijayadashami, is a Muhurta where Lord Rama killed Ravana and once again won Mother Sita back to himself. Okay?
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. But I wanted to know how every time, like twice a year, this happens, right? Navratri and Ramnami.
I am not very familiar with that part.
So connection between Navratri and Ramnami. Okay,
No.
thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji. Yeah. Please go ahead, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much, Shyamaratika Mataji, for arranging all these wonderful lectures every day. And thank you, Ramagiri Prabhuji, for the wonderful class today about Dharma. Prabhuji, my question is, when we think about Dharma, you wonderfully mentioned that if we protect Dharma, Dharma will protect us. And Dharma can mean different things like religion or righteousness. So how can we understand that with 18.66, where Krishna said to abandon all Dharma? So are we saying that we abandon all other Dharma and then take to Bhagavata Dharma that we were talking about today? Is that the connection with that verse and what we learned today?
18.66, we can explain them in multiple ways, but I'll make it a very simple understanding is that if we are celebrating Mother's Day without mother, so it is like I follow Dharma without surrendering to Krishna. Because many times we do a lot of ritualistic practices. I will, shave my head. I will, give charity. I will, fast for several, saptaha. So all those things are done. But then, if the final ultimate purpose in which our consciousness is not elevated to appreciate, glorify, surrender to Krishna, then such an awakening, if it is not happening, then it's a sad state. So Krishna is trying to say that you be righteous, you be trying to be doing so many wonderful things, but at the end, if you are not going to surrender to Krishna, if you are not going to surrender to the Supreme Lord, what is the value of those righteousness? I give an example. Ravana, he has got 10 heads. Each of the head has got an ability. Ravana is a beautiful Veena player. Very nicely can play Veena. Ravana can very wonderfully chant Vedic mantras to the proper meter. Ravana is very well versed in several arts. But what is the value of all of them? At the end of the day, his lust is towards Mother Sita. Kamsa had such a wonderful heart to drive his own sister. Just imagine the president of your country or prime minister of our country is driving a car. So it will be a talk of the town. Similarly, Kamsa drove the chariot with Mother, Devaki and Vasudeva behind. So with such a gesture of love. But what happened to those good qualities? So the point here is working towards acquiring good qualities independent of surrender to the Supreme Lord, that good quality is going to be futile. We are supposed to make sure that our dharma is eventually matures to bhakti, or dharma that leads to bhakti, or dharma which is eventually called as Bhagavata dharma rather than just some Kaitava dharma. Kaitava dharma means a lot of, fake substandard secondary religious beliefs. We are not for that. We are for making sure that eventually, that is why Prabhupada says the essence, the real essence is Sankirtana. The real essence is to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is one way of explaining that Sarva Dharma Parajita Shloka. Am I making sense, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you. That's
Thanks.
very lekker.
Okay, so there are no further thoughts, then we can end the session there.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam. Thank you so much for this nectarian class, as always, and your three real reflections. And he was busy in another call, but since immediately you jumped in here and gave such a wonderful class, Prabhuji. And thank you about mentioning Ram Navami and getting ready about festival on Sunday. We are celebrating here in Potomac Temple. So yes, Prabhuji. So thank you so much.
You have also Sitaram Lakshmana Hanuman there.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Beautiful,
And, yeah, His Holiness Rompad Swami Maharaj will be here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he has initiation ceremony and then the Abhishek and his class. Yes.
And Vrindavan Prabhu also.
Yeah, Vrindavan Prabhu from Pune, he will be here.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna, Dhanvat Pranam. Vanchakalpatarvesha Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Anantakoti Vaishnavanda ki jai.
Jai.
Namacharya Sharadas Thakur ki jai.
Jai.
Grantara Srimad Bhagvatam ki jai.
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
His Grace Ram Giridhari Prabhuji ki
Jai.
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 Thank you so much,
Jai.
Prabhuji. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hari
For the
Bol.
wonderful classes always, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare